Welcome to another Livecast for Ignite Press. And I don't know about you, there's some Livecasts you go on and podcasts and things like that, and everyone's really pretty chill. And I like chill, but I get too excited about launching books to be completely chill, quite frankly. So please forgive me if I'm not the super laid back interviewer, because it's not my style. And we just have too much fun with our authors. So speaking of which, I'm going to bring to you a very special author today. And we've had a fun journey launching her book. Quite honestly, it's been a ride. And I'm going to bring her on in just a second. First, let me just share with you that here at Ignite Press, we specialize in helping people get their messages to the world, and particularly in helping people who have businesses or brands or organizations that they know would benefit from the added authority, expert status, and exposure of being an author. And so that's what we do. And if we can help you in some way, just reach out. You'll find us at ignitepress.us. That's ignitepress.us. And I'd be happy to sit down and talk with you about your idea for your book, whether it's written or not. We'd love to have that conversation. So, but now let's get on to the main event. I have with us today Monica Rothgery, and she is the author of this great book, Lessons from the Drive-Thru, Real Life Wisdom for Frontline Leaders. Now, rather than me read some bio or something like that, or try to tell you how amazing she is, I'm just going to bring her on, and you're going to learn how amazing she is. So, Monica, welcome. And how the heck are you doing this day?
I am awesome, Everett. Thank you very much. It's exciting to be here. You know, we're live in front of all sorts of people to talk about this amazing little book that you helped me bring to life.
Well, we're so fired up about it, and we've been excited about what we've seen happen the last couple of weeks with the book. But before we get into that, Monica, why don't you tell us about you? Tell us a bit about your background and what you've accomplished on this journey that got you to this point.
Sure. Probably the thing you need to know first is that 30 years ago, I left the military and started my career as a restaurant manager for Taco Bell. And I did that job for almost 5 years. It was a difficult job. It was harder than being in the Army. But I learned a lot. And the things that I learned stayed with me and helped me have a very successful career in the restaurant industry. Ultimately, I got to be the chief operating officer for KFC in Thailand, and then that led to the pinnacle of my career, which is being the chief operating officer for the KFC restaurants, all 4,000 restaurants here in the United States. And I think the secret to that success was never forgetting where I came from, never forgetting those lessons and things that I learned when I was a restaurant manager. And so I retired about a little over a year ago, and knew that I wanted to share those lessons with the world and mostly with frontline leaders. So I wrote the book Lessons from the Drive-Thru, which took me back to when I was a restaurant manager, some stories and funny and not funny things that happened and what I learned about them. So that's a little about me and a little bit about the genesis of the book.
So I love the fact that you worked your way. Talk about the story of, working your way up the ladder. I guess you didn't start in the mailroom, right? That whole story of starting in the mailroom and becoming CEO or whatever. But obviously, you started in a managerial role, right?
Yeah.
And clearly, they must have, seen your experiences, your posture and skills coming out of the military, and realized that you being a manager. I'd be kind of curious. How did that translate? Like, I'm just thinking in the military, the structure is so organized and and the rank structure is there. I tell you to do it. I outrank you. You do it. Um, that doesn't seem to always translate as well. How did that work?
Yeah, perhaps that insight, Everett, would have been good 30 years ago. Where were you when they were recruiting us? And it wasn't just me, it was a bunch of young military officers that were getting out. And yeah, the promise was, leading a platoon of soldiers and leading a restaurant with team members is really similar. Young people who, are ready to be shaped and molded and with a very clear mission, different mission, of course. One is, defending our country and hats off and shout out to everyone out there who's serving us now. Thank you very much for your service. And the other's running a restaurant. And so, yeah, Everett, I think you've kind of figured out what I didn't, which was not same at all. Team members and soldiers are very different. Yeah, when soldiers know how to wear their uniforms and soldiers know how to do their jobs, and soldiers pretty much do their jobs or they get in really big trouble. But team members, a lot of times they had not been trained to do their role. A lot of times they, call in to say they're not coming to work, or sometimes they don't even call at all. They just don't come to work. And when they're there, getting them to do what you want them to do or what you need them to do is more than just a job of telling. So yeah, I had a lot to learn, and some of that is spelled out really clearly in the book.
Well, I was thinking, you can't send them to the brig.
Nope.
And how do you put them on KP duty when they're on KP duty all the time?
Right there, yeah, that's exactly right. There's no confining them to their barracks or extra duty. Yes, you've got to be much more able to engage people and meet them where they're at than the military.
Well, and yeah, and I'm sure that must have frustrated the snot out of you at times.
Yeah, I mean, I was more surprised than anything else, and not prepared, ill prepared, which is again why I wrote the book, because, through the course of the book, what readers will realize is that I was on a personal journey of development and of the realization that the spotlight was shining on me, or so I thought. And as long as it was, I wasn't really connecting with my team. And the minute I flipped the spotlight, shined it on them, started to care about them as individuals, relate to them as people with goals and concerns, and try and meet them where they were at, then things started to shift. Then they started to show up, not for Taco Bell, but for Monica. And that's what made a difference.
Now that's kind of interesting, because you hear stories of soldiers in the trenches, right? And how they'll tell you they aren't necessarily fighting for their country; they're fighting for their brothers and sisters in the trenches, right? That's their foxhole mates, and so that's really what you're talking about, is they're developing that cohesion as a group, so that they're showing up for each other.
Yeah, that's right.
And for you, and so I think that's powerful. Let's dive a little bit into your book, Lessons from the Drive-Thru. In fact, before we do that, I would be remiss if I didn't point this out, that today you can get the book on Amazon, and at least right now, as we're recording this, the Kindle version is up there for 99 cents, and you can grab that, or you can grab the paperback version. And I would encourage you that this is not a book about Taco Bell. There are stories in it from Taco Bell. This is not a book about Taco Bell. It's not even necessarily, it's not limited even to fast food. The leadership lessons and team lessons here are applicable across all industries, probably. And please pick a copy up for others as guests as well. I think you'll find this beneficial. So anyway, I want to make sure to get that out and let people know 99 cents it is available for that now.
Such a deal.
All right. It is. Absolutely. Talk about the value menu. You're right. Yeah,
Right. 69,
right
79,
there.
99. You can get a book or a
You
taco.
can't, yeah, because the value menu is not 99 cents anymore. So,
No, it's not.
especially out here in California,
Right.
I
That's a whole nother book.
probably heard those stories about what we're doing with our minimum wage.
Well, I have, and that's why the book is even more compelling now, because those frontline leaders have even more of a challenge. Everett's referring to wage rates that have gone up in California, and so the ability to get and keep team members and have them work together as a team has become even more important. And so that's what hopefully frontline leaders, regardless of industry, as you pointed out, hopefully that's what they can realize when they read the book.
Really an excellent point. And so here in California, they've just announced that fast food is $20 an hour minimum wage, which is substantially higher than the minimum wage of any other occupation, mandatory wage here. And of course, about triple what the national minimum wage is.
Yeah.
And so now we're watching the restaurants. Some of them are closing. Some of them there's a great pressure for increased automation and fewer hours.
Right.
And so a lot of workers now are encountering, wait, I'm getting $20, but my hours got cut by 30%. So not, it's a tough one. So yeah, you talk about pressures for frontline leaders for recruiting and maintaining appropriate workers. It is a great challenge. What are some stories or lessons that you would love to share to a frontline leader? Let's say I'm a frontline leader, and what would you share with me to give me perspective and help me through such a challenging time?
Yeah, I hope readers come away with three things. One is you are not alone, and the struggle you have, running your business, whether it's a restaurant or a C-store, and whatever team you happen to leave, you're not alone. Someone has done it, and there are people around you that can help you. You just have to be vulnerable enough to ask for help. The second thing is that there is a solution to every problem, and you're gonna face hardships. Things are going to happen, but you're gonna be okay. In the restaurants, we would just say like, okay, that was a bad shift. You just have to just wipe down the line, restock, clean up, and get ready for the next shift. In the military, we'd say, you live to fight another day. And so don't get too bogged down on an audit that you didn't pass or a goal you didn't meet. Just keep forging forward. You'll make progress if you focus on the right things. And probably the third thing, and the biggest and most important thing, is that frontline leaders, they run multi-million dollar businesses. 30 to 50 people call them boss, and yet they often don't realize they have the opportunity and the potential to change lives. That those oftentimes young people, oftentimes first jobbers come in, and the very first boss they have is a frontline leader. And that frontline leader can determine whether that first job, that young person coming into the workforce, has a great experience or a not great. Everyone remembers their first boss. And so I hope in Lessons from the Drive-Thru, frontline leaders realize that they have the potential to make a lasting, lifelong impression on those that are coming to work for them.
That is so true. I can picture my first boss vividly, and think of some of the stories and things that happened around that. My first job was at a movie theater, as an usher and doing concessions and all of that. So that was the closest I got to fast food, for instance.
That seems like it would have been a fun first job.
It was a great first job because you got all the free movies, all the free popcorn, all the free soda that you wanted. I had to pay for hot dogs, unfortunately. But you know how it goes. Sometimes you have to stack double shifts because stuff happens. I remember, I'm pretty sure there was one time I think I went about 3 days eating nothing but popcorn and cherry Coke. I didn't have to pay for it, so that was good. But I have this theory that everybody should work fast food or retail uh, early in their life, like everyone should do it. It's like, like some countries have mandatory service, in the military. We
Yeah.
need to have mandatory customer service experience so that we can learn how to be better customers, treat employees better. Gosh, just kills me. Um, there was something you said, and I was trying to think about to that. Oh, frontline leaders, first boss, this first job for a lot of people. Um, how do you handle this? Like, we're in this litigious society where we're so, it's like, oh, don't you say that wrong. Don't use that wrong word. Don't you speak in that tone. Don't you, whatever. There's just so many ways it seems like we can run afoul and, someone goes to sue us or whatever.
Yeah.
Doubly true in an organization the size of that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that where you're like, as a leader, you want to be able to develop relationship and be a mentor, but at the same time, afraid perhaps to discover anything about someone's personal life. And like, what's your advice for leaders in those circumstances?
It's a really good question. In my experience, Everett, I think the people that I've worked with in the restaurants, both here and in Thailand, were willing to share freely. And if I came at them as a leader with an open heart and open mind, and a true willingness to help, and meet them where they're at, it was returned in kind. To the degree that you engage and develop trust, to the degree that I was authentic, was the degree they met me with authenticity and trust. And then you get to this point where they'll do anything for you. Now, I talk about in the book, sometimes people make bad choices. Sometimes people will not treat you nicely. Not everybody's going to want to be on your team. And that's okay. People are going to do what people are going to do. And you can't lose too much sleep on that. You can't dwell on it. You have to, deal with the consequences as they deal with the situations that they present themselves, and then move on. Find the next great team member who does want to be on your team. Find the next person who, is willing to, jump on and believe in what you're doing and be a part of something bigger than themselves. But yeah, I feel like genuinely people want to be a part of something special. And so if we can teach frontline leaders how to create that environment, people are going to want to come along.
Wonderful. I appreciate that. Now I've got a couple of questions that are actually coming in from the audience, so I'm going to pass some of these on to you.
How cool.
So Malia asked, can you touch on your explain, train, coach, and celebrate method?
Malia's done some reading. Nice. Yeah, so I talk about in the book how you can't just tell people what to do. I tell a story about how I was trying to get someone to lead cleaning in my restaurant, and she never could get it right. And then through a series of discoveries, which I won't spoil, I learned why. I learned why she never really was taught what it meant to be clean, or what my expectations of clean were. And so what I realized is you have to start at the beginning and explain the standards in really clear detail, and then explain what's not the standard. We talked about the cleanliness of a table. It's free from litter and spots and stains, and that means there's no gum underneath it. I told you what it is, and I'm telling you what it's not. There's no soda rings on the top of the table. And then, you have to coach them, and you have to follow up, and then there's the celebration and the recognition, like, of when things get done well. The parking lot was, I couldn't find one cigarette butt in the parking lot. And so I celebrate that. And then that encourages repeat behavior for little things. And then for big things, the same process applies. Good question, Malia.
Yeah, that's great. And I love the celebrate part. And it's kind of funny you're talking about cleaning a table, and I think that my wife would probably like to take me through this process in regards to cleaning just about anything. But that whole idea of what the things that also the things that you shouldn't see, right?
Yep.
I think that's super
That's
valuable.
probably even more impactful than what it should be, right? The grout needs to be clean so there's no black spots on it, or I don't want to see any dust or feel any dust on top of the cabinet. That kind of, I think, brings it to life more than there should be no dust.
Rather than just clean. Yeah.
Yeah, rather than just clean. Yeah,
Clean it. It should be clean. Don't you know what clean is? Well, no, not everybody knows what clean is.
exactly right.
Different ideas,
Yeah, different.
right?
And that goes for everything that we would talk about, even friendliness, hospitality. I had one team member who would always say, "You want any sauce?" And in her vernacular, that was perfectly acceptable language. Some of the customers, it rubbed the wrong way. Is she wrong? No. But I did have to explain to her that, hey, if you throw a please in there, we'll probably get a little bit further faster.
I think that's important. It's funny, even with my wife did a great job with our kids when they were young, when they go to Costco, and Costco has the sample. We call them the sample ladies. They're there and they're giving out samples. So the kids, of course, would want to run up and get samples. And Carrie was so good about saying, look, here's what you do: address them by name, because they've got a name badge. Address them by name and say, may I please have some, and so the kids begin to learn what polite looks like. And I think that what you just described also is the same reason everyone should have to work in a customer service position, albeit whether it's fast food or telemarketing or retail or whatever, so that they can learn some of those things. They have an opportunity to be trained in some of those things. That's such a perfect example. You want some sauce? Right? Versus, would you like sauce?
Like some sauce, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Now, there's a very special person. You've got a couple of very special people who are watching the live cast right now. I'm going to put up a question from one of them right now, and that's Kathy Fyock, who is an absolutely phenomenal book coach and someone I highly recommend to anyone. And she had said, I'd love to hear one of Monica's favorite stories from the book.
Well, that's a little funny because, of course, Kathy Fyock was my book coach, and I think she's heard all the stories from the book. But my favorite story, there's some I don't want to tell the punchline, but I think my fondest story that I share is when my high school kids came in, which is always a time of great high energy in the afternoon, and one of my team members was not in his normally good cheery self, and it turned out he had an algebra test coming up. And I remember this so clearly, and I was like, what's wrong with you? And he said, his brother worked for me. He said, he's gonna fail algebra next week. And I said, well, I can help you with algebra. And they all looked at me like I had two heads, like I was crazy. And their jaws dropped and they said, you know algebra? It never occurred to them that, someone leading a fast food restaurant might know even calculus. And so I said, yeah, you guys, come on. I have a degree in biology. I know calculus and algebra, and I even know trigonometry. And so I ended up helping this guy, and he passed, and he went on, Khalil went on to be a very successful restaurant leader himself. And so that's probably one of my fondest stories. Through this book writing process, I connected with Khalil, and I asked him, because I wanted to make sure that he remembered this the way I remembered it. And indeed he did. He had really kind, generous things to say about me and my assistant manager, Johnny Rivera. Shout out to Johnny, because every manager needs a great assistant manager, and he sure was.
Well, there you go, and you get instant feedback here from Kathy. I love the stories too, actually. Now, Zelda has a question for you. She said, looking back on your journey, what is one key lesson you wish you'd learned earlier in your career as a leader?
I wish I would have learned, Zelda, that I am not defined by what other people think. I tell a story in the book about a supervisor who was not very kind. And for too long, I let that shape how I thought about myself and whether I was good at what I was doing. And the fact of the matter was, I was a darn good manager. And so I wish I would have learned earlier. It doesn't matter what people think. You get feedback from your coach. You take that feedback. You make yourself better, but don't let anyone define you or tell you you're not as great as you are. That's probably the one thing I wish I would have learned a lot earlier. Believe in yourself.
Well, I think that's powerful, especially knowing that, in a position like you were in, and now, right? I mean, we are all targets. We can all be targets of slings and arrows, and sometimes it's just catching people on a bad day, or catching people who've had bad experiences, and that have caused them to develop some things in their own lives, right, that can have impact.
Well, right. Yeah, that's right, Everett. I mean, those experiences do help us show us the coach we don't want to be. Right. I reflect on that, and I told myself I don't ever want to be that person who deflates someone so much, to make someone cry at work, to do anything less than build them up. Now, I wasn't always perfect, and so to any of my team members out there, sorry, but it certainly was aspirational. I would never want to be the person to tear people down. That's not how you get results. Fear is not a path to success. Fear is not a path to results.
Yeah, and sometimes those negative examples are the most powerful ones.
Yeah.
Right. You get to look and go, okay, I don't want to be that.
Not that. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So another special person is asked a question, and I want to put that one through. And we'll probably make this the last question as we move to wrap up. Onyx asks, what were the compelling reasons that led you to write this book at this time? Talk about putting you on the spot.
No, I mean, that's an easy question to answer. I struggled as a restaurant manager. I remember one particular night I closed in the dining room. I had a bunch of point of purchase material to put up. I had just missed my food cost targets again. And I was tired and cold. It was the dead of winter in Chicago. And I just sat down and just started crying. And I said to myself, if I ever survived, I said, what was wrong with me? I'm smart, and I've been trained by the best leadership training in the country, in the United States Army, and yet I can't even run a Taco Bell. And what I've come to learn is I didn't know a lot. There were a lot of things I didn't know. But that night, that cold Chicago night, I promised myself that I would spend the rest of my career, if I had a career, helping restaurant managers. And that's what I did throughout my career in HR and in training, and then as chief operating officer, both in Thailand. And so, of course, when, I started to think about what's my next chapter, what's the next thing I want to do with my life now that I'm not working for Yum Brands. And of course, it would be to help restaurant managers. And the best way I could think about doing that was sharing the lessons that I had learned, in the hope that they don't have to struggle the way I did.
Well, I think that is commendable, and you've fulfilled on that promise, and you continue to fulfill on that promise through your book. And in this, our last minute, what do you're moving on and doing other things now. In fact, you just had several speaking things that I can tell. What do you do? What are you doing now, and how can people get more of you in that process?
Well, you can reach me at monicarothgery.com. And I am excited about getting out there and doing keynotes. I have a keynote for frontline leaders and those who coach them. And I also have a keynote for more senior leaders to help you figure out how to unlock the potential of your frontline leaders. Because it takes both. You can't just have a frontline leader who wants to be empowered. You need the organization to be behind them. And there's some great examples of that I've worked with throughout my career. So yeah, I'm out right now celebrating the book. I had a book party at C&M restaurants in Indiana last week, super fun, and C&M Smith restaurants. And then next week I'm with the Alvarado group out in Denver to have a party with my family and friends at a Taco Bell of all places. And then I just hope to get out there and spread my message to frontline leaders and the people who lead them. my goal for 2024 is 10,000 leaders. And so I got a lot of work to do. MonicaRothgery.com.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And we're going to wrap with this. So great to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Everett. You guys have been so great. It's been such a fun journey. The design of the cover, the editing process, learning how all the ins and outs of publishing. I never would have been able to do all that without, you and Malia and Zelda holding our hands side by side with us every step of the way. And, it really was a collaboration. My wife, Onyx, who, was the best editor anyone could ever have. And I'm proud. I'm really proud of the product we put out. And get ready, because there's another book coming.
Well, we're grateful. We're working with you guys too, especially as Amazon, of course, threw us some curveballs and all of that. We're kind of into bonus time here a little bit because and I do wanted to let everybody know that Lessons from the Drive-Thru, the paperback version that launched 2 weeks ago, actually hit #1 in multiple categories on Amazon. And so you're looking here at an Amazon #1 best-selling author with a #1 best-selling book. And honestly couldn't happen to a nicer person with a better motivation to make this happen.
Thanks so much, Everett.
Monica, you absolutely rock. Well, thank you, Monica. And I'll wrap us up here again. Such a great journey. Well, everybody, if you have a book, an idea, a book written, a book already out there, and you realize that you probably could do something more with it, if you just want to talk about your book, just reach out to us at ignitepress.us. We're happy to have that conversation. And of course, at the same time, you're going to want to pick up a copy of Lessons from the Drive-Thru, where you can grab the paperback or the Kindle version, available right now on Amazon. Thank you so much for joining us here. Reach out at any time at ignitepress.us. Just grateful for your help and attention. Take care.